Hei og velkommen. Welcome to Lecture 1. Copyright Thomas Heavens 2011. Hva gjør vi I dag? What are we doing today? By the end of this, you will be able to use personal pronouns such as I, you, he, she, and it. You'll be able to make sentences in the present tense such as I am. You'll be able to use modal auxiliaries such as should, would, could, and must. You'll be able to speak, and there'll also be a small translation exercise. But before we start, Norwegian will take practice. Around 20 minutes a day is far better than an hour block practice a week. English is far richer than Norwegian in terms of vocabulary. Norwegian has around 20,000 words, in comparison to English, which has 171,000 words, excluding slang. This is because we have borrowed many words from French, German, Greek, and Latin languages. This, however, is not being big-headed, but it does mean that words that we have in English may not always work in Norwegian, so we may have to change the sentences a bit. Well, let's begin then. Jeg meg. I am me, using personal pronouns. Personal pronouns in English are things like, for example, I, you, he, she, it, they, those, and them. In Norwegian, it's jeg, du, han, hun, den, or der, de, and dem. Let's try that again. Jeg, du, han, hun, den, and der. And we'll come to the rest of those shortly. Let's go back a second. So that's I, you, he, she, it, they, those, and them. Jeg, du, han, hun, den, der, de, and dem. And there they are again. You'll be using these a lot, so it's best to practice them. What did you get? Making sentences. Vi lager setninger. Verbs. Verb. Verbs are the doing words in sentences. In the present tense is what's happening right now. For example, in English, I am going to the zoo. Going is the verb, to go. Norwegian, however, doesn't use am, is, or are when they express something in the present tense, just like I am, you are, he, she, it is. Norwegian doesn't have that at all. In fact, they place it all in one word. Jeg snakker. I am speaking. Snakker is the am speaking bit, so you don't need to say jeg snakker, because that doesn't make any sense. Let's have a look at the infinitive, but remember we'll always be coming back to these examples later, so don't worry. The infinitive. The infinitive is when the verb has nothing done to it by any one person. In fact, it stands completely alone. When a verb is conjugated, something is happening to it. So for example, when a verb is in the infinitive, it always has to, or in Norwegian, or, in front of it. Let's have a look at some verbs. To be. The verb is be. However, in the infinitive, it's to be, to do, and to drive. It is not being driven by any one person, or animal, or thing. It is just merely standing by itself on this screen as you can see it here. In Norwegian, to be, to do, and to drive is å være, å gjøre, and å kjøre. Remember that in Norwegian, to be is å være. This is very important. Å være. Let's continue. There are indeed some useful first verbs to learn. And the first one that we're going to pick today is å kjøre, which means to drive. That's å kjøre. In English, it's a little bit more complicated. We have 3 forms of the verb. In Norwegian, well, it's just one. To express, for example, to drive in the present tense in English, it's I drive, I am driving and I do drive. In Norwegian, it's just jeg kjører.